Hey YouTube, this might be the most valuable information I've ever put out there. This entire video series is all about bringing an idea all the way to a launchable product, which would be an iOS app. And the thing that's going to be different about this versus other tutorials out there or other, learning experiences out there is instead of just trying to compress everything into, a 5 minute, this is how you make a quick prompt and generate this app that's going to generate all this revenue for you. Instead, I'm going to use my expertise to show you what it's like to really build a real professional product. It takes time, it takes patience, there are phases. I'm going to bring you all the way from sketching all the way to launching on the App Store, getting your payment system set up. This is going to be pretty hardcore. This is completely free. I don't know if in the future I'm ever going to create like paid content. But the only thing I ask is that if you're going to watch this content, do me a favor, give a like, drop a thanks in the comments or something. This is going to be a few hours long. And I think this is going to be definitely helping both ways. I'm going to complete products and projects that I've always wanted to on this channel, while also sharing and giving information. And so the way that you can help me out is by, liking, commenting, subscribing, and just check out the journey. And if you don't like it, that's totally fine, but you may actually enjoy the process and there may be some valuable info in here. But with that, I really hope that you get something valuable out of this. I really approach this in a way where it's like, this is stuff that I wish I knew when trying to build products. And so yeah, without further ado, here are the videos. Take care. All right, so welcome back. This is going to be the first video to kickstart projects that we do together. This video, we're going to take an idea, a concept, and just bring it all the way to a complete product. We're going to spend the next few hours getting as far as we possibly can in the process, and depending on what skill level you're at, you may need to watch this at a slower pace, or maybe you'll need to rewatch this. And even in the comments, let me know if you would like a more detailed video on one particular aspect or anything like that. This video is going to be, we're going to create an iOS application together. And this application is going to be like, we're going to bring it to production. So that means that other people are definitely going to possibly use this product once we're done with it. The rules here that we've got some kind of parameters we're going to set for ourselves. One is that we're going to use AI, but we're going to use our thinking caps during the process, because we really want to make a professional product. That's like the goal here. We're going to make a professional product. That means it needs to have certain things. It needs to have like certain security things in place and everything like that. One of the other parameters is this is going to be an iOS app. The reason we're making an iOS app is because people who use iOS, in all transparency, have more of a tendency to actually purchase. So more often do people on the iOS platform readily actually purchase things in-app for something versus on Android, just statistically. That's not to say that there's not any business there, and you could still take the principles that we do here. You can bring these things over to building an Android app if you like, but we're going to focus on iOS. We are also using a Mac just to like set that out there, but you could use anything that you want. A lot of what we're going to do today is going to be in ChatGPT. You could use a pen and paper for some of the sketching and things we're going to do. You can, things that you will need is like Xcode. You'll definitely need Xcode. Xcode is the program that we use to like build iOS apps. And you're also going to need Cursor. So there's a few things that I might assume about you clicking on this video, especially because of how the thumbnail is going to look, that you probably are at least a little bit familiar with some of these. But once again, feel free to leave a comment or something like, I'm unfamiliar with this. Could you do a video that's going over the basics of how to use this? So without further ado, let's get started. I kind of cheated a little bit. Like, I have the concept in my mind, like we'll have to bring it out. But what I'm thinking is we're going to take a few hours to create a language app, and we're going to start with it. We're going to focus on the MVP, the minimum viable product, just being purely for learning Japanese. But the thing about this language app that we're going to do, the concept in my mind, and we're going to flesh it out, is that throughout the day, I may say certain things, whether it be to my wife or someone at work or a coworker or something like that. And I want to be able to record myself and find out what are the common things that I say throughout the day and use that as a reference to what words I should start learning. Now, I'm not an expert in languages or learning languages or anything like that. This was just kind of a thought that I had throughout the day. I was thinking, what kind of app would help me? Oh, I still really want to learn Japanese. I know like a few words here and there, but ultimately, I think that this would be something that would be helpful to kind of like make the process a little bit more fun, and also more relevant too, because, you know, when you're saying certain things throughout the day, like those are the most important things for you to like learn right away, because you're actually naturally, you know, speaking these things. So anyway, that's kind of like the general concept. Let's kind of flesh it out a bit. One of the things I like to do, like sometimes I'll like use the whiteboard, but here today what we'll use is we will use my iPad, and this is just a standard app that comes on here. This is Freeform. And so I'm going to make a new board here. And so what I'm thinking is this app should be super dead simple for the most part. The only time where there should be any added like complexity possibly is probably when viewing the things that you've said throughout the day. I also want to be able to transcribe like what I'm saying and bring it over into the app and turn it into text. So that's kind of important. So let's just kind of like brainstorm what this application would possibly look like. So definitely we would start with maybe just like this. And I have terrible like on the fly drawing skills. But I'm almost thinking that there will be like a big red button. Like I'm thinking like super basic. Like there's a big red button, and when you press it, it's going to then record and transcribe your words. That's like the first thing that I'm thinking in my mind. So pressing and holding, maybe not even holding. You don't even want to think of it. Like I'm starting up a conversation. Let's say my wife just came in. I'm pressing the button. I want it to just like listen to me, and then basically it's recording and like transcribing the things. But the key here is I don't want, let's put what we don't want here. I don't want the audio to be saved. I just want the text to be saved. So very important, text only. Now, as we like go through this process, like I'm gonna make a couple quick notes, like side notes, mental notes, and that's it's really for you. So like when you're building an app, sometimes you may want to do stuff like this. People jokingly talk about like, you know, I came up with this idea on a napkin and like, you know, it became a, you know, $20,000 app, you know, every month or whatever. Like, I'm not saying that that's always going to happen, but like basically you can, you think about these things like this. Like this is kind of a good flow to go through, is like drawing and sketching your ideas out, even if you really, really are terrible at drawing. So anyway, going forward, so what happens when this information has been transcribed? Maybe I want some kind of like, you know, visual feedback on the screen when this is going on. Maybe some kind of like audio wave feedback. Hold on. Okay. Don't know what's going on here. There we go. I just want some feedback. Let me move my keyboard out of the way. I'm not using that right now. Yeah, so I want some like feedback. And I want this feedback while I'm recording to like let me know that I'm kind of recording. Let me know it's recording. Okay. And this feedback doesn't have to be like an audio wave. It doesn't have to. Like maybe we'll just keep it simple and do like an animating pulse on this button here. Like maybe it's like pulsing, animating in and out, you know, as it's like recording. That way we just know that it's recording. It's good practice to show that. Even though on iPhone, there is like a little orange thing, little dot at the top that kind of like lets you know that it's recording audio. So this is great. This is kind of like the very first part. We tap the button, it's listening, we start talking, and then the app should start transcribing. What happens next? Well, after tapping that button again, I'm thinking that we could probably show you what you said, obviously. But things are a little bit more complicated than that. So like, there's always all these different like, you know, these different factors involved in edge cases. What if you've like recorded a few things before this? Like what if you've recorded a few audio sessions before that, our conversations before that? What would happen then? So clearly we might need sort of a standard, you know, list view, which a lot of apps are just like, there's always some kind of like list or collection involved, right? So like this is like conversation 1, conversation 2. So like maybe there's a scrollable list here. That you can scroll up and down. And after you've recorded a conversation, at that point you would then be taken over to this area where you can see all of the text conversations you've had. So that's great. if it's transcribed the things that you've said, this is kind of like that. We're kind of like at a third of like what the app should be doing for us right now. So we want it to capture, let's like make these like bullet points here. We want it to capture our common words in and sentences. Can't spell right now, that's fine. Then 2, we want the next thing that we want. So we've got that taken care of. We probably want some kind of summary or assessment, some kind of like intelligent feedback as to this is the kind of these are the kinds of sentences you say, and here are some good phrases to practice in Japanese. And so I think we need to somehow put that into words so that we can get AI to help us craft our product requirement document here. So let's see, how do we word that? Whoever is watching this is probably like, oh my God, like you could say it like this or you could say it like that. I need to do like live streams. That way, you know, people can interact. But anyway, so the goal is we want to be able to provide an assessment or a summary of like what what types of sentences the user is saying most commonly. So we should probably do this in 2 different ways. One, we'll make 2 bullet points here. And the whole thing is assess and present. Common words and sentences. Okay, and so we can do this one by convo. Individual conversation, and we can also do this by summary, like basically assessing all of the conversations you've had so far. So if it's only been 2 conversations, then creating an assessment of both of these would be the second one here. All conversations. Okay. So I think we kind of almost have our MVP here. I think the third thing that we want to capture in terms of goals for the entire app is how the user will experience this. Like, what's the user experience for this? So we've already kind of outlined 2 parts of the user experience here. One is the act of like capturing or recording a conversation and transcribing it. And then the other is, the experience over here where what does it look like to go and look at a list of the different conversations you've had. So really common, like it's really common in app development or iOS development, or really any kind of like web development or anything, to have this experience of like tapping on something and getting to more details. So it's obvious that we'll probably end up giving the user the ability to tap on one of these. Tap. And when they tap on it, we're going to give them a more detailed, this is where we'll give them bullet point number 1. I think this is a great spot to give them bullet point number 1, where basically for whichever conversation they tapped on, we could put convo 1 up here at the top. This will be on the navigation bar or something. And then in the detail, that's where we can actually put our details on like our assessment that we decide to do, like using AI. So obviously this app is going to end up using some form of AI in the background. It's so meta, right? We're going to use AI to help us craft this thing. We're going to use our own intelligence and our own, unfair advantages in order to like create this thing, but leveraging AI. And then we're also going to make sure that the app itself has the ability to like use AI to like accomplish something really specific for the user that they wouldn't be able to easily craft otherwise. So so basically here, next thing that we'll do is let's just come up with a really basic UI. We'll see what AI has and like ideas on, and we'll like kind of collaborate and see like what we come up with. But for a detail, for an assessment of an individual conversation, what I'm thinking is like what I would want is like maybe a list of probably 2 lists here, and maybe this will be like a like some sort of segment. What I mean by segment is like there's like a option 1 and an option 2 here. So what I'm thinking is this is like a button, like 2 buttons. One of the buttons would be like, show me the list of words. So common words that I'm using. And then the other one might be like common sentences. Okay, and so this will follow the same kind of, we'll keep it really simple. Like we're going to be doing this KISS thing. Awesome. Keep it like all the time. I mean, keep it simple, stupid. So you'll have a list of words. If you tap on the words segment, and then we'll have a list of sentences if you tap on the sentences button. Segment button. By the way, just as a pause. All of this stuff that I'm coming up with is completely on the fly. So I think it's just a good exercise. I'm trying to give you a peek into my brain and how I would actually craft things so that you could get some ideas on like how you would go through the process too. Because sometimes it's difficult to like know how to come up with something from scratch. And I think that that's one of the things that I would like to impart to whoever is watching is like what it's like to craft these things like from scratch, and what's kind of the process. This is the process. It's one of the processes, right? This is my process. Your process might look different than this. Some people don't even go to like how things look and like brainstorming like this. Some people just go right into ChatGPT and just start talking, and that's totally fine. Like, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I just think it's nice to organize the thoughts a bit easier. So let's keep focused. One of the things we've got here, right. So I think that there is an opportunity to decide how this entire thing is going to flow, right? So far, we really have almost two major views here. We've got this one right here, and we've got this one right here. Okay. Now, these two views, we can just go a classic navigation bar, route, where at the bottom of the screen, you will see, maybe these two options here at the bottom of the screen. So if we just kind of take a quick peek over here, so the user might first see the, record button view. But they're going to have, two options here, or maybe they'll have three. Maybe there's going to be three options here. One of them is going to be the record option. One is going to be like, no. I think keep it simple. Let's just do two. We are just going to do two. So we've got the record, which we're already on in here. And then we have the sort of archive or, previous, I don't know what we want to call this yet. I don't know, conversations. So conversations and recording. Cool. Awesome. So that is great. So I think our third thing that we were concerned about was really just like the UX, which is user experience. We've kind of almost covered that. I think there's one more thing that, we could accomplish for ourselves, and that would be like being able to see what is it like to access all of these. Like, we haven't addressed bullet point number 2. You know what I'm saying? We've addressed bullet point number 1, where like when you come over here to your conversations, you get to look, if you tap on one, you're going to see like, the words and the sentences that were extracted from that conversation, as well as like, and this will have English and Japanese somehow. We'll go into the details of that later. So, but what does it look like? This is the last thing before we actually get into, some actually, well, this is all part of the process, everything. So what I'm thinking is we can have a all button up here. So, all right, so we have conversation 1, conversation 2, etc., going forward. But what we could do is, I wonder if there is a picker. Is there any kind of picker in here? No, that's not going to work. Well, that's fine. Basically, we'll just recreate this real quick. So our screen, where the user has the ability to select their conversations, right? So what we should have up here is maybe like an all conversations. This will be sort of like a button on the top while we continue to have the list, the scrollable list of conversations down below. I think this will make it really easy for the user to just kind of like tap up here, and then it'll take them to pretty much the same type of screen that has the words and the conversations and everything like that. So, yeah, this is, I think this is what we've got so far, and this is what we're going to end up calling it. I don't know yet. We need to, feed some of this information and collaborate with GPT and try to kind of come up with some names. See, sometimes like you might have an easier time coming up with a name for your product ahead of time. But sometimes you just kind of let things happen naturally. You take these actions, you start, bringing this idea into manifestation with your expertise and just like your thoughts and like how this thing would work. And then, things will start to put itself together as long as you kind of push yourself in this general direction. So what we've got next, now that we have this like concept and this idea, we're going to put this into words and start getting a prompt together for ChatGPT. And we have a few goals in mind. One of those goals is I made like a little list for myself, like, because I've done this quite a few times, but I think it's important to like have a good like strong outline of like what you're planning to do. So our goal is to continue to refine our idea. And what that entails is doing some deep research. We'll do some just market research. I think regardless of the market research, we're going to follow through with this product and develop it anyway. But for you, if you're developing a product, definitely doing market research is super important, because then you start to realize how viable this thing is. Is it really going to make any money? Who are you going to market to? Things like that. Now, a name is one of those things on there. A product requirement document, which is super important to lay down the foundation of the vision of this product. Beyond more than just like the going through the motions thing. Like, what is this product really for? That way we can easily do an elevator pitch if we needed to. User stories, like, can we accurately, we've kind of got a taste of the user stories here, because you can kind of tell a story. You can say, as a user, when I tap that button, if I'm about to start a conversation, I tap this button, it starts transcribing. That's user stories. We would get those user stories together and make sure that it's crystal clear in terms of what the product should actually look like at the time of release. Like, what is the releasable, clean product that we're going for? So, product requirement doc, user stories, name, of course, technical doc. The technical doc is basically, how do we want this project to be organized? If you're going to be building apps with me, you're going to be learning how to read some of the code and like at least learn where to go and how to talk to AI via cursor. But it's important to like know what kinds of questions to ask or how to debug things. And so when you create a technical document, what you do is you make it crystal clear for how the files are organized, where certain things are. Maybe you need to adjust a button, and telling Cursor or telling AI to go and fix a button sometimes isn't the easiest process. But if you are familiar with where things are, you're like, oh, all the buttons are in this folder, and AI is following these rules, these preset rules that you set up via these docs, then you can be very specific and say, oh, in this document or in this folder where all the buttons are, there's a button called blah. Go there and fix it up. And that way it knows not to duplicate that file or something and create a new one. So AI still needs to be told what to do in a very specific manner. So these things are super important. The next thing that we're going to end up hitting on is going to be cursor rules. And cursor rules are some documents that you can put together to make sure that Cursor is abiding by these rules every time it decides to execute on something. Lastly, a progress doc that's gonna basically keep a checklist of like what's in progress, what your milestones are, what user stories are being scratched off as Cursor is actually writing the code and like getting the things done. And once we get to the point where we're actually executing on that stuff, like I'll share with you the tips and tricks, like how to debug and things like that. But the process with me versus like, you know, some of these other, you can go to, there's tons of videos out there to like do this stuff. But with me, we're just diving in super deep. And so if you really are serious about creating like a really pristine product, I think that going through this process is really important. After we do all that stuff, we're still not done. You have to, you know, we're releasing on the App Store, and it's not just a click of a button. You need to get a developer license. You need to do some search engine optimization on your description. You need to create screenshots. You need to create app icons. You need to do all of these things. You need to create a website. That has security outlined on it. That's linked to the page, or else the app won't actually get approved. There's so many small things that need to be accomplished, and that's why I'm putting this together, because there's not typically one spot to go to like get all of this information. And so, yeah. So this was effectively part one. I'm still deciding if I'm going to put these together. Basically, this will serve as a break for me. I might release this all as just one big video, but if I don't, feel free to comment, like, subscribe, and continue to pay attention and ask questions for things that you're going through, or, you know, what questions you have, like any questions you have on the process. But anyway, I hope you're enjoying this and having a good time with it. And yeah, I'll see you later.